Hello, hello, my friends. I have 20 candles that I have decluttered out of my candle collection over the last 2 months. This is a series that I started on my channel, I want to say way back in January. I called it my candle collection series. And it originally started out with me sharing with all of you my entire candle collection because I really wanted to, going into 2024, be intentional about the size of my candle collection. You guys know I've talked about this several times here on my channel where I am always trying to find this balance of reviewing new fragrances for all of you while also being able to enjoy the fragrances that I have always loved. Maybe some of them carry some wonderful scent memories for me. And I was starting to find at the end of 2023 that I was feeling like my collection was getting a little bit out of control. Hence the birth of this series in which I shared with you the collection. And then I told you guys every month I am going to keep you guys updated. I'm going to let you guys know what I bring in, what goes out. And so I wasn't able to get around to it last month because life has just been pretty hectic for me lately. But I'm finally sitting down to share with you guys the state of my candle collection. I'm going to briefly just tell you guys like numbers, but really the focus of this video is more so just sharing with you the candles that I decluttered. Some of you guys are going to be clutching your pearls because I actually decluttered a couple of brand new fragrances to me. Shocker. Some of the scents that I decluttered, you might be like, oh my gosh, I thought you loved that fragrance. And I do, but I will give you guys my reasons why I have decided to go ahead and move on from them. So make sure if you like this video to hit the old thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to my channel if you are new and you love candle content. But I like to talk, and we're going to go ahead and try to keep this video, always being the keyword. I'm going to try to keep this one under 30 minutes. Let's see if we can do it. So, as always, all of the fragrances that I talk about today will be listed and linked if they're still available in the description box down below, as well as with any kind of affiliate discount codes. So, all right, at the beginning of the month of August, remember you guys, I'm going back 2 months because I didn't do this last month. I didn't provide this update. So starting at the month of August, I began that month with a total of 86 candles in my collection. Over the month of August, I brought in 30 candles into my collection. So at the end of the month of August, if you're looking at what I began with, what I brought in, at one point I had 116 candles. I did empty 22 candles throughout that month. And so that brought my collection back down to 94 candles. So then when I began the month of September, I had 94 candles. You guys, the month of September, 40 candles came into my collection. Now, I will give a brief little disclosure there that I'm looking here. 19 of the candles that came into my collection in the month of September were PR items from Kringle. They had a lot of launches going on over, I would say, the last 2 months. And so 19 of those 40, so half of those candles were candles that were sent to me through 2 collections from Kringle. So then I had a total of 134 candles. However, if you caught my empties video that I uploaded a couple of days ago, you guys know that in the month of September, I actually finished burning 23 candles. So at the end of the month of September, I had 111 candles, and then I finished, or not finished, those were empties. I decluttered 20 fragrances in the month of September. I would say like August, September. These were candles that I just started putting aside. I started to get a little bit more brutal as I was starting to get new stuff in. I was like, I have got to get rid of some things. So at the moment, you guys, my collection currently stands at 91 candles in my collection. If we're tallying where I started in the month of August, the total number of candles that I brought in over the month of August and September, minus the amount of candles that I emptied and decluttered. As of today, I have 91 candles in my collection. And truthfully, I'm okay with that. Generally, my comfort zone is that I like to keep my candle collection under 100. I know for some of you guys, you're like, wow, that's really a small collection, especially for having a YouTube channel. But my home has limited space. And for me personally, I feel like that's a good number for me to have. Otherwise, I just start to feel very overwhelmed, and it kind of takes the fun out of it for me. Now, I'm not saying that has to be the case for you. I know that there are quite a few of you guys who have much larger collections and you love it. But as for me, that's just not the case. case. So now that we have the total number of candles currently in my collection, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the candles that didn't quite make the cut to stick around. And yeah, you guys might be surprised by some of these ones. So starting out with, if I have a picture of the candles that I'm talking about, I will pop it up right here for you guys. Is it here or here? One of the sides, I'm going to pop up the picture of the candle. So the first candle that I decluttered from my collection was Homeworks Salted Soft Pretzel. That was a candle that was sent to me in PR way back. I want to say maybe it was late April, early May when they were launching their summer carnival collection. And I did like the fragrance. It had a fennel note to it, which fennel can sometimes come across a little bit like maple syrup. I remembered giving the review on that video and talking about how fennel, I always think of the fennel tea that I would drink after I had children when I was in the nursing phase of my life because it was supposed to increase a mother's milk supply. But I found that one of the side effects they always said was that your sweat kind of starts to smell like maple, which is kind of a funny side effect. But anyways, I did like the fragrance, but again, it just was not a love for me. And I also found it to be a fragrance that was difficult for me to pair with other candles that were already in my collection. You guys know that in order to enjoy my collection, I typically will burn more than one fragrance at a time. So yeah, it was just kind of hard for me to find combinations for that scent. So that one I did go ahead and move on to Greener Pastures. Another fragrance that I ended up decluttering was Maple Woods from Kringle Candle. This is part of their 2024 fall collection. And I did do a dedicated review on it. And in that review, I said I liked it, but I didn't love it. It was kind of I almost want to say like a perfumey maple type of fragrance. I think I've concluded that I like maple fragrances that lean a little bit more gourmand. And so that fragrance wasn't a bad one. But again, not a genuine love for me. And I decided to go ahead and set it aside. And sure enough, somebody else snatched it up and said, "Oh, I love this." And I said, "Good, go ahead. You can enjoy it." And I've also said this in previous videos, but if you're new to my channel, when I declutter candles, usually what I do is I set them aside in a box and I will generally offer them to friends. I will offer them, especially if they've already been burned. I will offer them to friends. I will sometimes bring them to church and just set them out in the foyer and say, "Hey, anybody want these?" I do have a friend that recently opened a thrift store, and so sometimes I'll give them to her so that way she can kind of put them in her store. But then if there are fragrances that are completely unburned, I will either gift them to people, or something that I have started to do recently is in my community. I talked about this in my candle chat video a couple of weeks ago. In my community, especially during this time of year, we get an influx of our population swells. I live in Arizona, so we get what we call the snowbirds or the winter visitors. The community I live in particular, we get a lot of like ropers and like rough stock type, yeah, like horse people. They come to our community a lot in the wintertime. And because we get an influx of people, a lot of our local charitable organizations tend to have a lot of their charity auctions, dinners, benefits, that type of stuff. And so in my community, some people know that I have candles. And so sometimes they'll come to me and say, like, "Hey, we have a silent auction, or we have a raffle or something like that. Would you be able to donate a candle to that?" And so fragrances that are brand new that I feel like I want to declutter, I just go ahead and set them aside and then give them to those charitable organizations. So I should have said that at the beginning in case you didn't know, but that's where we're at. Okay, the next fragrance that I decluttered from my collection was, surprisingly, this is a fragrance that I really enjoy. It is Kringle Candles Apple Cider Donut. Now, the reason why I decluttered that candle from my collection is because it is a fragrance that I have enjoyed in the past, and I'm very familiar with it. However, it's not top tier to me like, say, Autumn Amber or Leaf Peeper from Kringle, where it's a must have for me. It's like, I don't feel meh about it, but it's not like my top favorite fragrances from them. And my mother-in-law came over and she really liked the fragrance of it. And she helps me out a lot with my kids. So I said, why don't you take it? She loves fragrances like that. And I just knew that I was in a phase where I was going to have to prioritize burning some new candles for review purposes. So I decided, you know what, this one is just not going to get as much love as it could. So I went ahead and gave that to her. And then there was another fragrance that I really enjoyed the scent of it. However, I believe that it was a mispour. So the fragrance that I decluttered was a candle that I purchased from Marshall's last year on clearance, and it was Hallmark's Woodland Cabin. Now, the reason why I decluttered it is because I have heard Woodland Cabin is supposed to be very similar to Bath and Body Works Winter, which, if I am not mistaken, I do believe that Harry Slatkin came up with that fragrance when he was with Bath and Body Works several years ago. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that, but I do believe that I've heard that before. However, Woodland Cabin that I had in that fragrance, even the fragrance notes that were listed on the bottom were not what I was smelling. What I was smelling was it was a marshmallow. It was like a marshmallow fragrance. And in fact, I have a hand soap um, with it. Why am I blanking on it? It's a marshmallow type of fragrance. And that is it Marshmallow Woods or something like that? That is what I was smelling in that fragrance. And so for me, again, as a reviewer, I found myself kind of in a predicament where I was like, well, I can't necessarily burn this candle for review purposes because one, it's older, two, it's a mispour. And so I did just decide to go ahead and gift that fragrance to a friend. Even though I did like the scent, I had enough other fragrances currently in my collection. Like I'm loving Kringle Candles Warm and Toasty, that I felt like I didn't need it in my collection, so it went to somebody else. All right, here's where things are starting to get a little bit interesting, because you are going to see here that I've decluttered quite a few fragrances that came to me in PR. So starting out with, you guys might clutch your pearls, I decluttered Pumpkin Rum Toddy from the new Kringle 2024 collection. Now, again, it's a fragrance that I like, but I don't necessarily love it. It's cozy, it's nice. I did do a post burn review on it, but again, it's not a love for me. And there's so many other people around me that love holiday, or not holiday, fall fragrances. Right now we're in prime fall burning season. And so I did have a friend come over that really enjoyed the fragrance, and I said, here, go ahead and have it. Another candle that I decluttered, this one was not sent to me in PR. This was a candle that I actually purchased in 2023, but I did not start burning it until this year. And I will say that I did like it a little bit more upon burn than I did on cold sniff. On cold sniff, I didn't really like it. And that is the Kringle Candle Reserve Pumpkin Buns. So again, I did do a dedicated review on it. That fragrance to me, again, it was a like, not a love. It was also a little bit difficult for me to pair with candles that I currently had in my collection, because it had like a savoriness to it. And there's a note in there. They have a peach note listed in there, which I actually could detect a little bit in that scent. And it just kind of threw it off for me, where I was like, I don't think, I didn't hate it. Like I said, it wasn't going to be a hate burn for me, but I just decided there's somebody else who would probably like this fragrance. So out it went. And then here's another one that this is the one that I think a lot of you guys are going to be like, what? I decluttered Salted Maple Pumpkin. Here's the thing. That fragrance to me started to smell a little bit, kind of got that like scorched burned note to it. I've mentioned this oftentimes with a lot of Kringle scents, and I think it's just my nose and how it perceives a lot of the like butter caramel type of notes that Kringle puts out. To me, once the candle has been burning for about sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours, it starts to take on kind of this like scorched, I just call it like a scorched wildfire type of note. And I was starting to detect that in the Salted Maple Pumpkin. Now, interestingly enough, on Cold Snip, I felt like that fragrance was very similar to last year. They had a Halloween candle in the 3 wicks called Pumpkin Smash. And on Cold Snip, they were very similar, although I did detect in the Salted Maple Pumpkin that that one had a little bit more salty savoriness in it than the Pumpkin Smash. But yeah, I just decided that, you know what, this is one that a lot of people love, and somebody else in my life really enjoyed it. So I went ahead and pass that along to them. And then I did end up decluttering a Halloween fragrance, or actually, what I ended up doing was I traded it with one of you. So the Halloween candle Sinister, I did end up trading with my viewer Riley. He actually had an extra. Riley, I hope it's okay that I'm saying this. But he actually had the cute black cat on a pumpkin candle, and he just said it wasn't really to his liking. And so he had reached out to me and said, like, hey, if you would be willing to trade, we can go ahead and do that. So that's what we did. So I sent him my Sinister candle because he really enjoyed it. That had kind of like a what is it? Kind of like, I want to say like a plummy, fruity, like a dark fruit type of note to it that just, it was just okay to me. But when I had the opportunity to get a candle that like I really, really loved, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and part with that one to get, the cute black cat on the pumpkin, because why not? Right. A Bath and Body Works candle that did not sit right with me. And some of you guys may again say, what is wrong with you? The Perfect Autumn from Bath and Body Works. So that was another fragrance that was new to my collection this year. I know it's not a new fragrance. It's been around for a long time with Bath and Body Works. It's kind of a cranberry pumpkin based fragrance. And a lot of people had always compared that to Homeworks' Harvest Leaves. To me, the the Perfect Autumn wasn't quite like Harvest Leaves, obviously. I mean, I love Harvest Leaves, and I ended up decluttering the Perfect Autumn. But to me, there was something that was maybe a little bit too artificially tart about it, that it didn't hit my nose right. And every time I burned it, like the first time I burned it, I thought it was okay. But successive burns after that, I was like, why does this smell weird? Like something just smelled off about it that I was like, nope, don't want this one. So out it went. A Kringle Candle Reserve candle that was just sent to me in PR recently, but I actually said in the review, don't be surprised if you see this one in a declutter. I did end up decluttering Apple Brandy. Now, I am happy to say that that fragrance was a lot less boozy on burn than it was on cold sniff. On cold sniff, it almost smelled kind of sour to me, the combination of the apple with the boozy brandy note in there. I will say that that did balance out a lot more upon burn, but it still, again, was just, I think it's not so much that, let me back this up. Had I gotten that fragrance probably in like early to mid August, I could have seen myself completely burning through it. However, now that we are in the month of October, I am really not embracing apple fragrances as much. I'm definitely more so into the pumpkin. I'm into the spice. I'm into maybe even some like smokier, kind of like earthy type of fragrances for the month of October. So I knew that apple fragrances, I'm kind of over them at this point, which I've told you guys that's typically like my pattern. So I was like, you know what? I'm probably not going to enjoy it as much. Let's go ahead and move it along to somebody else who will enjoy it. I also parted with this one is a little bit surprising, but I did part with the Kringle Candle Reserve Gilded Leaves. Again, it's a very perfumey fragrance. It's a unique fragrance. It reminds me of a perfume that I can't put my finger on from the 90s. Again, I enjoyed it, but I just didn't find myself reaching for it all the time. It wasn't a fragrance that I'm like, wow, I'm just loving this so much. I want my house to keep smelling like it. It again feels more like a fragrance that I probably would have burned earlier on in fall, not so much right now. And so I did decide to go ahead and move on from it. Another fragrance that again I liked, I did do a dedicated review on it, and I feel like it's versatile. Is Golden Tobacco from Country Candle. I like it, but I will tell you that there have been some other fragrances kind of in that, I call it kind of like more of like a masculine fragrance family where it's not cologne like, but I I the new Smoke and Oak from the Reserve line. Oh my goodness, you guys, I am loving that. Spoiler alert, I actually just repurchased it. I've been loving that fragrance. I still have a Homeworks Black Tie in my collection. I still have a Bourbon Bonfire from Kringle. What are some other boozy ones? Oh, I have the Skull and Sonnet. I have Thirst. So there's just some other fragrances that I think that I'm enjoying a little bit more that are kind of in that like kind of what would I call it? Like sitting like a masculine like smoking room, like smoking jacket with like wood trim, like I like those fragrances, but I just feel like I have some in my collection already that I am reaching for a lot more so than the golden tobacco. So I did decide to go ahead and move on from that. Um, Merlot vines from Country Candle, I did go ahead and declutter. In fact, I actually just sent that candle home with my sister who was visiting over the weekend. She was visiting from California. And the reason why I decided to part with that candle is, again, I like that fragrance, but it was definitely more of a summer to fall transitional scent. I burned it a lot with the Kringle Candle Reserve Merlot fragrance, and I also burned it with the Autumn Vineyard from Homeworks. Well, the thing is, I've finished both of those candles already. So now the Merlot vines, I don't have something in my collection right now that I feel like it would really pair nicely with. So I did decide to go ahead and part with it. And the reason why I sent it back with my sister is because Bridget, if you're watching this, my cousin Bridget was visiting over the summer and she really, really loved that fragrance. And so I decided to send it back to California with my sister so that way she can go ahead and give it to Bridget. All right, another fragrance that I mentioned in my what video was I mentioned it in a video that I did end up taking into exchange was Pumpkin Donut Shop from Bath and Body Works. I did do a dedicated review on that. I had puny wicks on that from the outset. You guys know that I have been talking about Bath and Body Works, and I think a lot of you guys have been having this experience too. Bath and Body Works candles for me this fall have been either burning very, very well for me, or I've been dealing with like a puny wick situation from the outset with them where it's like they're just super slow burning. And I don't have time for dealing with that. On top of that, truthfully, I didn't really love the fragrance of Pumpkin Donut Shop. I know there's people who love it. To me, it smelled very powdered sugar heavy, and it smelled to me. I call it. It smells like a couple of hours old Mickey beignets from Disneyland. If you've ever been to Disneyland and you get the Mickey beignets, they're great when they're piping hot fresh, but like if they've been sitting like in your stroller or whatever for 3 hours and you go to eat them again, you're like, this isn't as good. That's how I described that fragrance. So I was like, nope. I went ahead and I took that back. I exchanged it for pumpkin clove. Um, all right, here's one, you guys. Clutch your pearls, because I feel like everybody's loving this fragrance, and it was a little too acidic for me. I decluttered pumpkin spice latte from Kringle Candle Reserve. Did my review on it, and I did mention in there, I think the coffee note in there mixed with the pumpkin spice, I would have liked a little bit more creaminess in it. Now, that being said, you guys, I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't drink pumpkin spice lattes. When I have a coffee note, my nose usually will pick up if it's too strong on the coffee element, it's too acidic. My nose definitely needs something more vanilla, more creamy, something to balance it out, which is why I tend to like Bath and Body Works pumpkin spice latte, because there's a sweetness and a creaminess to it that balances out that kind of like espresso coffee note. Whereas in the pumpkin spice latte, it smells really good on cold, but upon burn, it was just too much for me and I didn't care for it. My sister did like it though, and she's actually really sensitive to fragrance. So I told her, I said, look, this is the brand that probably is not going to give you a headache or anything, and it's not super, super strong candles. So you would probably enjoy this. So she liked it on cold sniff and said, yeah, I'll go ahead and give this one a try. Okay, and let's see, here's a couple of candles. I did decide to declutter one. I had a holiday limited edition in the Mercury jar from Kringle. It was a 2023 release. It is called Fireplace. Now, I still have half of one in, or like 3/4 of one in my collection right now, but I had another one in my backup stash. And I did decide to go ahead and declutter that, not because I don't like the fragrance. I do. However, I have a really good friend who hosted my 40th birthday party over the weekend, and she loves kind of like hearth type of fragrances. And as a thank you, I did go ahead and give that candle to her, as well as, you guys are going to be shocked by this, I went ahead and gave her one of my beloved Bath and Body Works Palo Santo Vanilla, because again, she also likes fragrances like that. Like, she went all out for this birthday party for me. She did such a great job hosting it, and I knew that those fragrances would be totally in her wheelhouse. So I went ahead and gave those to her. And then I have another friend who helped plan that party, and so I went ahead and gave her another Palo Santo vanilla. So you guys, I decluttered 2 Palo Santo vanillas. I still have I'm still burning through like half of one, and I have one more full-sized one in my collection. But I'm just getting to that point, you guys, where I'm like, I don't need 4 backups of one fragrance. I just need one, because the reality is that as a reviewer, I am going to constantly be getting new things to try. And I was just feeling like overwhelmed with all of it. So I did end up giving her a Palo Santo vanilla. And here's where you guys are, I told you, like, there have been some fragrances that have come into my collection recently that I have just said, like, I don't see myself really excited to burn this. So I went ahead and gave her one of the brand new Kringle holiday releases, and that is Blankets and Snowflakes. Now, that fragrance, I did mention that it smells kind of like if you walked into Hollister back in the day, like early 2000s or whatever. Has a slightly masculine undertone to it. It's kind of a toned down version of a lot of the ways that like Bath and Body Works has all of those mahogany fragrances. Um, Slightly masculine and cozy, but I did go ahead and decide to give that fragrance to her because she likes fragrances in that wheelhouse. So I decluttered that one, and you guys, I decluttered three other brand new Kringle holiday fragrances. I'll give you a minute here to if you caught that initial first sniffs video that I did with my husband, you guys can go ahead and guess which ones they are. But I did not like Pomegranate and Furs. There's something about it, you guys. It's was not for me. I was not excited to review it. I know that a lot of my fellow ambassadors either purchased those candles for themselves or they received them in PR. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to hand that one off to them. They can go ahead and do the review for that one. But for me, I just was not excited to burn it. I know somebody else is going to love it. So I went ahead and passed that one on. I also passed on Sugar Plum and Myrrh because, again, I'm not into those fragrances. I don't really like candied, fruity type of fragrances in the winter time. If I do reach for a fruity fragrance in the winter, it's usually going to be an orange-based fragrance, usually mixed with some clove. Those are usually the only fruity fragrances. Maybe some cranberry. I can do cranberry as well, like heading into the holidays. But yeah, I definitely Sugar Plum, not so much for me. And then the last fragrance that I did declutter is Winter Iris. Now, I did mention that that one is kind of one of those like soft, fruity florals, very much in the same fragrance family, if you're familiar with Kringle, as say Beautiful Day or what was the other one? Watercolors. It's kind of in that type of vein. And again, not really a fragrance that I gravitate towards really ever. I mean, maybe in like early spring, maybe like a winter to spring transitional. But honestly, you guys, I just saw myself being like, I'm not really excited to burn this one. So let's go ahead and move it along to a charitable organization that needed something for a raffle. So those are the 20 candles that I decluttered. Let me know in the comment box down below which one had you clutching your pearls. Which one were you like, oh my word, I cannot believe that she parted with that. For me personally, I am shocked that I parted with some of my beloved Palo Santo vanilla. But like I said, I know that there's always going to be other fragrances coming along that I am going to love. And I do have some more candles coming into my collection this month. I am planning to do an exchange. I have a couple of Bath and Body Works candles in my collection that I think I'm going to take into exchange for some of the new holiday ones. I also did just purchase. What did I purchase? I purchased some of the new holiday candles that are coming out from Homeworks. I'm also still trying to decide what I'm going to request for my gratis this month from them. But you know, I will be having some holiday candles. And then the day that I am filming this, Kringle surprised us with a surprise, like limited edition country launch. There are 5 new fragrances from the country candle launch that are now available. I did go ahead and purchase the Kringle Express and the was it holiday churros, I think. I did purchase those two, as well as a backup of smoke and oak. So I should be getting some reserve candle reviews out for you guys this week. But yeah, if you have been curious, smoke and oak is my winner from that whole fall reserve lineup. I am absolutely loving it. So please, again, hit thumbs up if you enjoy declutter videos. Let me know in the comment box down below. Are you still on an intentional journey with a lot of your candles? Or are you like, oh my word, all of the holiday and fall releases have me in a chokehold right now? It's okay, no matter where you are on the spectrum. But I do always like to put this video out because I do feel like There can be an overconsumption sometimes with fragrance or just with anything in life. So I do always try to give the balanced side of saying, like, hey, these are ones that didn't work out for me. Um, and yeah, I just always think it's kind of a little bit of a fun concept. I do want to say thank you so very, very much for spending your time here with me today. And until my next one, I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day. Bye.